if any of you can receive this gift of singleness. No, I don't think.
Right.
It's not for me. So I do believe that I will meet the right person at the right time. Hopefully not far from now. And I also do believe, and I believe this wholeheartedly, that if I don't marry, that God will give me these spaces and places and people of joy that will be enough.
My name is Meisha Watson, and you're listening to My Single Story. We explore the blessings, the hardships, and the cringeworthy moments of Christian singleness. Before we get started with our guest, Rebekah McNeely, I would love to read from another page of My Single Story. I call this story, Don't Quit. Don't quit. You've been here before. Stay. Continue. Keep going. This will grow you. This will deepen your trust in the God of all. This isn't a story of failure, but of breakthrough. You don't need to quit to experience the promise of peace, calm, and goodness. This pain will be used for His glory. Let God prove His power once again. This will be your testimony. This will help so many. This will help you. The God who made every golden sunset, every green, lush plain, and every precious stone still needed your story for His masterpiece. Don't quit. Ladies, welcome back to another episode of My Single Story. I'm getting better at singing now. I'm really happy about that. We have a fantastic guest today. She is a social media and resource coordinator at the Salvation Army. She is host of a podcast, The Salvationist Women, to which I was a guest of. No big deal. And an associate social services consultant for social mission in the area of corrections and justice. Come on, justice. Her name is Rebekah McNeely. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. Being on your show was kind of amazing, and it's an amazing experience. I felt like you were asking me all these like hardball questions, but we had such a calm and kind and thoughtful conversation. And so I was like, we need to do that. We need to have you on the show. So we're going to get started. And the way I like to do it when I'm getting to know someone in person, really for the very first time, I'm going to say a sentence and then I would love you to fill in the spaces for yourself. So for instance, I'm going to say, my name is Meisha Watson. I'm a single woman of God. I'm a fan of banana flavored marshmallows. I know it's weird, but it's my favorite. And I like short walks on the beach. And I'm single. Your turn.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rebekah McNeely. I am a woman of God. I am a fan of audiobooks.
Oh.
They are my happy place. And I like rainy days.
Oh.
I love rainy days.
You would love London.
Yeah.
It is forever raining over there.
I've heard.
Okay, but when it's a rainy day, though, I'm just jumping in now, even though there's more for you to say, is that in London, I feel like it's always dark. So are you not like a sunny?
No, I love the sun as well. I just love both. I feel like little bursts of joy when it switches from like sunny days to rainy days and then vice versa.
I love it. Okay, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
And I am single.
Hey, I just have to make that clear. So far, every single episode, we've managed to find these unbelievable, like kick butt leadership women who are single. And I'm like, yeah, let's just like make that happen. Let's give more space to single women to share what's going on in their lives. So let's move in. So first of all, I want to ask you, because I've asked most guests, like what made you say yes to me? Like I was like, hey, there's a podcast about singleness specifically. And what made you go like, okay, yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Meisha, I'm going to launch right in and be honest with you. I struggled with whether or not to come on. To be honest, I was like, do I want to do this? Is it going to become my whole identity? But then I listened to your introductory episode a bunch of times actually. And then a few other episodes, and I prayed and I wrestled, and I was like, oh my goodness, like these women have put themselves out there and it's made me feel hopeful.
Wow.
So how cowardly would it be for me to be here in my room like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll just let them do it. So that's why I said yes.
Oh, I'm so glad we're able to uplift you and encourage you. And that's one thing that's exciting is that most of the people that have been on my show, I already know them. Like we already have like, you know, an understanding of each other's lives. And I think that's why they've been so comfortable to share.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really honored because I do think that the idea of my single story is actually telling parts of your story, is really being vulnerable. And that is a hard thing. You know, you're being recorded right now. There's a camera in front of you and a mic in front of you.
I have to leave.
Wait, what? And I think that there's a courage to that. So I really do appreciate you saying, sure, I'll come. I know that there was a whole process before, but it does mean a lot. And your perspective and what you do on a day-to-day for people is so important. And so I wanted to hear about your life outside of work and outside of your mission, outside of your ministry. And then we'll get fun stuff done as well, because that's like my vibe. Mm-hmm. So I'd love you to walk me through kind of a day in your life. There's also obviously Salvationist Women, but there's also this work in justice. You're also right now doing your PhD. I'm like, give me the kind of play-by-play on what a full throttle day is like for the Rebekah McNeely.
That's so funny. All my days are so different, but also, if any of my bosses are listening, I promise I do all the work within the time frames I'm supposed to do it. So I do have a few different jobs. So every day looks different for sure. I can give you like two of the most common types of days. So I work for the Salvation Army. I work full time for women's ministries. That's where the podcast I run comes out of. And truthfully, my demographic is probably quite different than yours. I think my demographic is like 40 to like 60-year-old women and some men. Actually, we do have some men who listen. And I create content for that. For them as well. Like I write a ton of devotionals, like basically every couple of days I write a new devotional. And we also run big events for girls in the foster care system through Brave Global in partnership with them every year. So that's kind of that job. And then I also have like an additional contract with the Salvation Army that's only 9 hours a week, because you can't work more than 44 hours a week.
So they say.
I know, right? So that's the social services. That's the associate consultant. It's pretty recent. I actually don't think I could repeat to you the title. It's in my email signature.
Yeah, it is.
And that is looking at recidivism, which is when people come out of jail and they recommit a crime. That's called recidivism.
Oh, okay.
And so the Salvation Army and other organizations have programs to intervene in hopes that like that doesn't happen, of course. And so I'm kind of like evaluating, not really evaluating, like just looking at what we have currently in that area in the Salvation Army in Canada.
Like what kind of resources we have, like what's available to...
What kind of programs we have, what the programs specialize in, like is it for men specifically, or do we have some for women? And like what kind of programming within those programs are they offering?
Wow.
So that's what I'm doing with that. I very recent job, so haven't done too much yet.
But that's like, I love how specific it is.
That's very specific.
It's something that often I'll say like, oh, I want to help some sort of organization. Or I want to help people. How can I do it? We go to the simple things. What's easiest? First thing would be like, for me, I have 2 Compassions kids, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I want to support this part of the ministry because it's easy. Kids need food. Kids need water. Kids need compassion. They need shelter. So it's really easy. But I think that like thinking of people who just came out of the, what do you call it? Corrections facility and is now heading into like life. Like, what do we do for those people? What do we have available?
Yeah.
Like what is the real status of it in Canada?
Totally.
What are we as Christians supposed to be doing about that? Like, we do prison ministry when they're inside, but what do we do when they get out? Like that sort of thing. Are we welcoming them into our church communities? Are there resources for that? Like all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's so specific, but it's like we should be thinking of these kind of things. So is that like what you're working on in your PhD? Is that the same sort of thing?
Similar, yeah. So my PhD is in criminology, and my focus is more in like youth justice. So my research is with youth who are incarcerated currently, specifically boys aged 12 to 17. And we do have 12 and 13-year-olds who are incarcerated in Canada, in case you didn't know.
I didn't.
Yeah. So that's what my research is, as well as our like larger research team at my university goes into the provincial and federal system, and we interview men and women who are currently incarcerated for any range of crime. So if you ever want to talk about like the tension of working with people who've done like really horrible things and also being like a follower of Jesus who believes in like grace and redemption for all people, that is the tension right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, there's so much there. Like, first of all, wanted to cry just now, just thinking about the idea of a 12-year-old like making a mistake and having to endure having to go to prison for it. Like, I think for me, like there's certain movies, I love watching television and movies and documentaries and stuff like that. But there's things like Scared Straight on A&E. And I watch it and see like these kids who, you know, have had such a horrible upbringing, and for them to survive in their own understanding, they've done something and now they're having to start off life on a really bad foot. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm so glad you do what you do, because I don't think I have the capacity to even really hear the stories. I'd be like, what? Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, how for you how do you level out your life? Like taking all that information in at the same time, like presenting such a kind composure as we sit in front of you, such a calm person. Like how, I mean, do you compartmentalize? Do you, like, how specific, how deep do you get into these stories? Like, what do you do to protect your heart?
Oh my goodness. Whew, good questions.
Thanks.
Really good. Yeah. I mean, it's a learning, like I haven't figured it out perfectly. I mean, I think I do a lot of like, first of all, hearing their stories feels like I'm doing something, because a lot of times, especially in like the adult prisons, actually no, in the youth prison as well, they're not really getting a lot of opportunity to talk to people outside about like their feelings, about their experience, and like our mental health, like resources for inmates are not strong. So I do feel like, you know, one of my skills is listening. And so if I can extend that to people who tend to be pushed to the bottom of like priorities in our society, then I'd love to do that. And then the other thing is like, I feel like it has totally deepened my faith and my ability to like be a kind of like a witness of what grace is, to like go and have conversations with, it's really confusing too. It's an emotional tension. To have a conversation with a man, for example, who's committed a really violent crime maybe, and then, you know, not know what their crime was going in, and listen to their story for an hour, be moved to compassion and feel like this is a man who like wants to be different, who said like these beautiful things, and then to leave the prison and our supervisors tell us not to like look people up because like you don't necessarily want to know what they've done. And of course, being like a rookie research assistant, I looked them up and to see what they've done and then be confronted with the like, do I believe that the gospel is for everyone? So that is, it is hard. And I'm figuring it out, but I do feel like called to be in this space at this time.
Wow. I feel like I need to read whatever book you write after you figure that part out. Maybe not even figure it out. Maybe the figuring it out.
That'll be what I write
interesting.
About,
yeah, because I mean, when I watch a documentary and I say, you know, just a person, whatever documentary is about someone who does something and people are hurt or children are hurt or whatever it is, or a crime is committed that hurts a lot of people, I find it hard to go, yeah, the same grace that I get is the same grace that you get. But I'm not confronted with it. Like I don't really have to make a choice in it. And also my opinion's not public. That's one thing I always say too, is that like people ask me questions about very, you know, controversial things and I don't have to say it on a camera. I don't say it on a mic, but ultimately my stance is always that yes, there is grace. Grace is extended to everybody, but it's so hard when you're actually confronted with it and, you know, you're talking about it at work. I was speaking to someone recently, Eliza, she's a journalist, and she was talking about how in order to do the job she did at CBC, she had to desensitize herself to the content And that was primarily what made her want to leave journalism, because she felt like God didn't want that for her. God didn't want her to be desensitized by it. But in the environment she was in, it wasn't a Christian environment. So everyone kind of thought it was like a normal thing. Like, yeah, let's just like, can't wait till we get desensitized to all this stuff so that we can do the work, the important work. Do you feel like you'll be more effective if somehow you can numb those parts of who you are?
No, I don't. And I mean, in some ways, I probably have it a little easier than Eliza did, because I'm not in a Christian, like the academic space I'm in is very far from being Christian. Mm-hmm. But the culture that's been created with my supervisors and my like colleagues is definitely one of like compassion and even like a bit of anger at like the plight or the situation of some people. So it's not just reporting the way, like, I actually don't know much about how journalism works, but I do know that like we talk a lot amongst each other about kind of how broken the system is, which does make me feel like I'm contributing to positive change. What I actually haven't had to be confronted with too much, which I'm sure I will be soon, is like how unpopular the work I'm doing may be among people in society. Like, it's not like I hope I can say this word. It's not like a sexy social justice thing, you know?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Like it's people in,
it's not cool.
It's not cool. It's like people in prison who've done bad things. Like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
But the thing is they're very complex. Like maybe there are like sociopaths, but I've never met one. And like they're complex, multifaceted people who have painful pasts and hopeful futures. As soon as you meet one, in some ways it's hopeful because you're like, wow, you are not unidimensional. Like there is so much to you. So I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No, you are. I think it's ultimately, first of all, it's I'm not desensitizing yourself to it is incredible, is not as helpful as I would thought it would have been. For sure. But one thing that came to my mind was you're in a compassionate place, which is great in doing this kind of work. I think that's probably most helpful would be to find your people so that you're kind of you can support each other. Like feeling supported as you're taking in that kind of information is very important. Like you said as well, it's not necessarily something that's really supported. You know, we're talking about working with, is it ex-convict? I feel like ex-convict is like I shouldn't say it like that. Like,
yeah, you know what? The language is always changing. So I would say like people who have been incarcerated.
Okay, there we go. People who've been incarcerated. I feel like I've met people who've been incarcerated before, but then when they're out, the conversation is about like, how can I change my life? How can I be better? I haven't actually met a person yet who, you know, there's a chance that they may break the law again in the way that I meet them. So the idea of being an in between, like that medium space, like I'm like, that is so important because the whole point is you go in and that you learn your lesson, you come out, you don't do it again. That's the whole point of the corrections. Otherwise it's like... In theory. I
gotta say, that's in theory what corrections is supposed to do, but that's not always the case.
Yeah. But I think even just being in the middle of that and being able to say that's not always the case, like is incredibly important. So, okay, so overall, we speak about purpose a lot and calling a lot. Would you say that as of right now, you are living in your calling?
I just realized as you're asking this question that I think I have the inability to give simple answers. So I hope I don't run this too long. That's literally what a
podcast is for. So give me the long answer. I want to know.
When I was in my undergrad, or for a year between my undergrad and my master's, I kind of like went off the rails a little and was like, is God real? Is he good? Yeah. I don't know if I want any of this. I was nannying and I was really miserable. And I ended up coming back, got into my master's and started going to church again and like reconnected with God. And then it just all kind of happened quite rapidly. Like I went from, oh my goodness, I'm 23, I'm lost, I have no idea what I'm doing, to here's a spot in a master's program, here's a supervisor that is doing something you think is incredible. Oh, look, you got into a PhD, started the PhD. And now I'm, 3 years into the PhD and it's like something I'm so passionate about. And the jump from how I felt as like a late teens, early 20s, like I definitely struggled with some depression and like directionlessness and just an overall sense of like, I'm going to be sad my whole life and I'm never going to do anything meaningful. The radical change from that feeling to being in my master's and being like, oh my gosh, God, you are incredible. This is the dream that I didn't know I had. But now, which is why I had to give all that background, I remember like in my PhD kind of, and this because my PhD was largely during COVID, having these feelings of like, what happens if this goes away? What do I do then? Like, will I go back to early 20s, late teens Rebekah and be really sad and really purposelessness? And then is it really God or is it just a job I like?
Wow. Is it God or is it just a job I like?
Yeah. And I've had this wonderful like season of realizing that God indeed used a job, because I think he's a good God who gives us good quality gifts. He used the job to bring me to become the person I am today, who is a person of purpose. And without my PhD, I would remain a person of purpose. So yes, I would say wholeheartedly, I am living in purpose. And I would say it is not attached to my PhD. I'd be bummed if I stopped my PhD. I don't want to mislead you here. But I feel very strongly that God would bring me to something else of purpose.
You are a person of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's going on the gram.
Mm-hmm.
You got that? That's going on the gram. That was so good. No, but like honestly, it's so true, because I think I was speaking earlier about how my life as an entertainer has been like a no-brainer my whole life. No one ever thought I would do anything else. They were like, when she came out the womb, she was like gonna be on TV. That's always been my thing. But I always do wonder, I'm not gonna lie, I can't wait to be married, can't wait to be a mom. But when I'm a mom and I'm not working, what will that Meisha Lorraine Watson look like? Will I still feel like a person of purpose? I will be so excited to have this life to take care of. But at the same time, like my life has been based on purposes that, but you ever got purpose, for instance, serving in church or serving in ministries or whatever it is, but there's always been this underlying growth in my career and these huge milestones. So what will it be like when career is just not at the forefront? And societally, that's the expectation, is that your career isn't at the forefront. So, you know, I'm not sure if I'll be one of those parents who say, oh no, I'll do 3 months of maternity leave and then my husband stays home for the rest. Like, what does that look like in society? So I think about all these kind of things because I feel like I live a life of purpose right now, but what will it look like then? And I think you're right in what you said. God has used a job to create a person of purpose. And if you continue to spend time with him and know his voice, he will show you purpose in each season. I also, however, think that sometimes we have worry and anxiety around finding the purpose. Like, what is my purpose?
For sure.
What is my calling?
Oh my goodness.
You spoke earlier about like in your early 20s, that kind of like stress of that. And like you spoke about depression as well.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't want to overlook that, because I think there's a lot of women right now who are like, I came out of COVID. I was supposed to learn how to bake bread. I didn't. And now I'm like, what am I doing with my career? And they're in that space as well. So for you, what would you say kind of uplifted you out of that space?
Yeah. Also a really good question. And I don't want to give like a careless answer, because I have been in the depths of like, what am I going to do? What uplifted me out of that? I mean, so many things in retrospect. I think first of all, like we have got to be in community. Like we need to be surrounded by safe people who can speak hope into our lives. I always say it to people who are struggling now. When I feel hopeful, I'll say like, hey, why don't you borrow my hope for a little while? You don't have much of your own. I have so much for you. You can borrow mine for a season. Wow. And that's what people did for me. And especially my mom, you said that in your first episode, my mom is like my best friend as well. And she has given me like so much, like she's helped sustain me in those seasons. So definitely community, be surrounded by people. And I know that's not always easy to find. I would say just like one foot in front of the other, like join a small group, join like an interest-based group. Definitely, I would say like Christ-centered, because that's a game changer.
Yeah.
I also think like going a direction that you didn't plan for, that you really can't see more than like 2 steps ahead. That's like a really good thing, because when I started my master's, I was kind of like, a master's in sociology. Like, what am I going to do with that? Like, I'm going to do nothing. And people said that. They're like, oh, good job. Social sciences. Love that for you.
Love that for you. Yeah. That's the true, okay, your life's going to be hard. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So, but knowing that, like, between that option and kind of floundering, waiting for something more responsible, that was a hopeful option, and taking those steps to being where I am now, where like I am in the most like financially secure, independent, like meaningful work and opportunities, even just to like come talk with you. Like, this is an opportunity I don't think I would have found had I not started my master's, which led me also to the job at the Salvation Army. So like taking opportunity as they come. But first and foremost, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more later, a relationship with God is the thing.
Yes.
It is the thing that has rescued me from hope. Absolutely. No question. Also, I would say, and I was coming onto this as like, what do I want to share and what do I not want to share? But I personally think that like if you need the support of medication or you need certainly counseling, those are good things.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to get help for those things. So all of those things working together, I would say, were game changers.
So good. I love that, because I think the practical things are most helpful if you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think what I would call one of the hardest times in my life was depression. I wouldn't call it that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear it, I'm like, that's actually quite a brave and courageous thing to call it. Calling it what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
yeah.
And also talking about medication is also really important, because I think within our Christian realm, there's a space of like, are we allowed to talk about it? Do we talk about it? And I think that, so I appreciate you mentioning that for sure. We're going to switch gears just a little bit. We're going to play a game I like to call Tea or Pass. Here's how the game works. I will say a list of a couple of things, and you will say either tea or pass. Tea being, it's the tea. Like, it's the thing you want. It's the thing we love. I subscribe to it. I recommend it. Or pass being like, no, thank you. Never again. Will not happen. Okay. Got it?
Sorry. I was a little distracted drinking water. Can you repeat the right answers for me to say? So tea is when I would do it, and pass is when
I wouldn't.
I would not. Okay,
exactly. You got it.
Got it.
Okay. First one, solo travel.
Tea. I've done that.
Oh, yeah? Where have you gone?
Oh, a few places. I was in San Francisco like a couple weeks ago on my own. Yeah.
Wait, is San Francisco where they have the hills?
Yes.
Like Maine and Manhattan?
Hilly. I don't know if Maine and Manhattan.
I feel like she was running up a hill.
That was definitely in Manhattan, probably.
Oh my gosh. Did I just do that? Oh my gosh, I just did that.
Yeah, I think that was not in San
You're really meeting true Meisha right now. That's something I would do. Maine and Manhattan was shot in San Francisco. Yeah. It might still have been shot there,
though. It could have been, 100%. You could be right. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah. Oh, love that. Solo travel. Next. So, in solo travel, though, what was a special place for you on that trip?
Oh, man. Like a physical location or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, it's not a physical location.
Okay.
Naps whenever I wanted. Like who said that you have to like fill your days with busyness? I took a lot of naps when I solo traveled, and whatever food I wanted to eat it. I am a PhD student over here.
I love it.
Yes. Whatever food I wanted to eat, I ate when I wanted.
I love that, because you do have to compromise when you're on a girls trip, right?
And I've been told I am not the best at compromising, nor am I the best at accommodating. So I think it was a nice break for me to just like actually do exactly what I wanted to do when I wanted to.
I love that. I think I've done a couple of solo trips. I mostly traveled alone over the last 10 years, to be honest with you. A lot of it for work. But I think that my favorite thing to do is the coffee shop thing.
Nice. Yeah.
So even just setting up a laptop with a cappuccino at a place in a city that I didn't know, so I could see like people's regular day, was really important to me. But I never thought of the naps thing, because I feel like, actually my best friend the other day was like, I feel guilty when I don't do a thing on a Saturday, when I don't accomplish something. I'm like, that's literally what Saturdays are for.
Totally.
And I think that coming back from a vacation and feeling exhausted, I prefer not. I prefer not to have to take an extra day off to relax after vacation. I would love to do it while I'm there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Naps on vacation.
Every day.
Something
Every single day I was there.
All right, next one, a table for one. So this is actually similar to what I was mentioning before. So being on a trip and going to a coffee shop with a coffee is one thing. But this is, would you go to a Italian restaurant, sit with a plate of pasta, by yourself. Tea or pause?
Tea, also done that.
Ah!
Yeah, truthfully, I get a bit of a rush from it. It's a bit of like an adrenaline rush for me to be in spaces where I'm totally alone and just like look around like, what you gonna do with me standing here on my own? You gonna talk to me? You gonna stare at me? Oh, I don't know. It's weird. That's super weird. But it does give me a bit of a rush. And I took a book. So if I got too awkward, just look at my book.
I should do that because you know what ends up happening to me? I did it a couple of years ago. I went to Tironi, one of my favorite pasta bars in Toronto, and I had a glass of red wine and carbonara, super creamy pasta, just having the time of my life. No book. But because I'm a hyper romantic person, I found myself people watching way too close.
Yeah.
Way too close. I was watching people like whisper sweet nothings and like doing the kiss on the ear, like that cute stuff. And I'm like, I should probably like not make it clear that I'm looking at them, but I was definitely doing that. So being in a really romantic spot alone actually has been kind of great. I've really kind of enjoyed it. So that's a T for me as well. All right. So this one is a little bit more kind of missional. Is church hopping. So here's the thing. When COVID happened, a lot of us were at home.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to be kind of assigned to a local church. So it was okay for us to jump in and out of different churches and not have a home church. But I think a lot of people are still at that space. Like, is it okay biblically? Is it okay communally? To hop churches and not have a home church. So is it a T? Is it good or is it no bueno?
Can I give it
a
nuanced answer?
Yes, I would love one. Yeah, because this isn't lighthearted. This is like actual hardball. Like, can you stay at a local? Should you stay at a local church biblically? Is that what God wants of you? Is that living a God honoring life, or are you allowed to go from church to church on Sunday? And like, is it beneficial versus prohibited, or is it okay? Like, where do you sit?
I think that's like. Truthfully, this is actually such a personal question because it's something I have wrestled with myself. We moved around a lot growing up, so I've been to quite a few different churches, not by my own choosing. But I don't think the Bible is like especially firm. And if there are any theologians out there, send me a message. I am totally open to being corrected and I'd love to learn. I think we love to impose kind of like our ideas about what the Bible is firm on into like Western like conception of church.
100%.
So, okay, let's just talk about really quick. I can't do short answers. I'm going to go really quick. Let's just talk about the fact that like Western church, we tend to see as like a building, as a space you attend Sunday morning. Corporate worship, nice little sermon, encouraged, maybe have some coffee after and let's head home. That's church.
Right.
But like, is that church? Because that's not the early church. That's not the church of Acts at all. So I think church is essentially, it's a place where we are discipling each other. We are being discipled. It's a place where we apprentice under Jesus. It's a place where we worship corporately. And it's a place where we pray corporately. It's a place where we can go out from to serve our communities. So if you are doing that with the same group of people consistently, I think you're doing church. I think you're doing church fine. I do believe we need to be cautious about hopping from one like organized Sunday morning to another, because I think that there's a danger there of running away when things get tough. And that has been my personal experience where like certain people who maybe make me feel not so great, or certain like even just structures and practices in those church, I'm like, I don't know if I love that, but is it like really an essential tenet of my faith? Probably not. I think it's important to be willing to stick it out in those spaces because I think God does work in us when we stick it out in tough spaces. Yeah. So to summarize, I think that it's okay if your church doesn't look conventional as like Western Christianity, but I think that commitment to a body of individuals over the long haul is really important.
I love it. I had to do a little break there just in my conversation, just to kind of like take that in. I feel so seen
good.
Because, you know, I had a lot of guilt in pandemic. Like I left my church just before pandemic started and I knew I was supposed to leave, but God didn't make it clear where I was supposed to go. And I was so used to having Sunday, go to church, Tuesday, go to this. Wednesday, it was such a structured lifestyle I had at my prior church. And then for just over 2 years, I was without like even a community.
Right.
And I lost a lot of friends when I left that church as well. So I definitely went through a deconstruction phase early 2019 where I was like, okay, God, like, who are you anyways? And it was a really intense time. It was almost like a true crime story where I wrote everything on the wall that I knew and what was true and what wasn't. And by the way, friends, I did come out on the other side of deconstruction. I love God. I know who he is. Deconstruction is not always necessarily a bad thing.
Totally.
But also, I did feel like a lot of guilt to tell people when I said, so where do you go to church now? And I didn't have anywhere to say. Or if I said something like, oh, I'm actually, meeting with these people who all the time, like these individuals all the time, that I felt like I was like ashamed to say it, to not have a name.
Yeah.
And now I'm in a lovely church. After 2.5 years, I found a home and I love going there every single Sunday. And I love having the worship and I love having the conviction to serve my community and to serve my church and all that sort of stuff. But I know God worked on me during that time when I wasn't in a church community. He grew a love in me to be in community because I think I needed accountability. I didn't have that when I didn't have a church and I was hopping around trying to find where to go. I didn't have a lot of like people in my life who knew God for longer, who could speak into my life. So that was really important. But I like what you said. Church hopping, which is literally, I'll go here on Sundays and here maybe on Tuesday or not Tuesday, sorry, this Sunday, that Sunday, whatever. You miss out on the commitment factor. Yeah. That's what it is really. It's finding yourself in a community where you can be, God can speak to you through those people. You can be convicted of things. You can grow in community. But there's also that responsibility that if you don't like that worship leader because you think they're wearing jeans that are too tight, and then you decide you want to go to another church right after that, like that's the part that's the problem. That's the problem. Anyway, so I just really appreciate that. So even though, it was a little quick question, church hopping, but I do think that we need to address it. Coming out of COVID, there's a lot of us. There's a lot of us who are like, well, what does church really look like? And the early church didn't look like, I'm not going to name any names, but it didn't look like conventional, North American church. So, or English church for that matter. All right, next bit. Actually, this is not really a tea or a pass. This is like, which would you prefer? Okay. Because I haven't even answered this question myself because I'm going to a lot of women's conferences coming up. But would you prefer to go to a women's conference or a women's retreat?
I was like, what is the difference?
Yeah, like a 1 day or a 2 day event where there's loads of people, or a women's retreat, which is usually a bit more intimate. So maybe there's like max like 15 women, you rent an Airbnb and there's like devotionals, hikes and that sort of thing, or a conference where it's more like big worship. Those prayer moments where everyone's on the floor crying and like Holy Spirit is moving. Like if you had to choose between the two.
Yeah, I'd definitely pick a retreat. Yeah. For sure. I'm like a passionate conversation, connection, like meaningful connection kind of person. So you don't have as many opportunities for that as a conference. And I have historically gone to those and been like, oh, I didn't talk to anyone. So I love the retreat for that.
Actually, I have a question too, because we're planning a conference right now at my church. And there's this, when I go to a conference by myself as a single woman, I often feel left out. I've been to conferences before where I knew a couple people, kinda, but they weren't my homies. And so I didn't feel like I had space for, like, there wasn't room for me. Like no one was checking on me kind of thing. Right. And so my church has done a really good job of like literally asking me, how do you want to be served? How do you want to be cared for? So there's like a welcome desk. We haven't figured out what to name it yet because it's not like came alone or like party of one, like what do you say, right? But somewhere where we can go during that gap in the day that there always is for like lunch or something where you end up eating in your car and just spilling Chick-fil-A all over your lap because you're by yourself. I don't even eat Chick-fil-A. Why did I say that? That was a weird moment. But yeah, like eating by yourself because you want that connection, but it's not there. So what would you want in attending a conference? What could you take from a retreat to be able to want to go to a conference more? Like what are women's conferences missing these days?
Oof. These are hard questions, Meisha. I know. These are good questions. So, okay, first of all, I do think it's partially an issue of people. As a conference organizer, you can only take so much responsibility. Like you and us, like when we feel unseen, what is the first thing we should do? Look for someone else who looks unseen and see them. I think that's such a great antidote to that feeling. second for a women's conference, my opinion is that it should be really like, give us some good content that's not about like these things that are just unique to being a woman. Like, let's talk about the criminal justice system. Let's talk about like, I don't know what else. Lots of other topics in there that we're interested in as women. Like, I don't know, race car driving. Maybe that's something women are interested in.
I mean, I'd love to talk about taxes. I talk about it every single time,
taxes.
But I feel like I'm doing them wrong.
There you go. Me too.
I'm like, I feel like I'm missing opportunities here, man. Let's talk about that at a women's conference.
I think making things a little more topical and a little less like just the kind of common things we associate with women. And I won't name any because they're all good things, but like, that allows us to connect with each other about like topics beyond just the experience of being a woman, which is an extremely diverse experience. So
exactly.
That's what I would say.
I love that. So actually having a vast group of like just a variety of messaging and actually even speakers, I would love to hear from someone that was unexpected. Yeah. Yeah. Which is something that's always been really important to me with this podcast is people who have been asking, they go, you want to talk to me? I'm like, yeah, let's hear about what you do because it'd be great to have it filled with pastors who always speak about their faith and always speak about spiritual practices. But what about people who just are Christian or who are trying to figure it out? Let's hear from you and see how you do it. Right. Which is why I love panels, actually, at women's conferences.
Awesome. Yeah. Yes, big fan.
They always mix them up with different kinds of people. And I remember I was at a conference a couple of years ago and I was, there were so many women at it, but diverse. It was like really, they were like, it's super diverse. And it was in age and socioeconomic background. But there was 2 Black people. Oh. And I think there were like 25 speakers. Oh. And I went like, ooh. And it's not as if to say diversity is just having a Black person there. No. But it genuinely was just like, there was no other person who wasn't a white person at this speaking.
That's so disappointing.
But what was wild was my girl was sitting next to me and she goes, I can't wait till the day when this is truly visibly diverse. And I went, what? She said it on the platform. And I thought, this is so exciting because she was sticking up for me in that moment. And people in the audience were just like engaged because they were like, this is just a new thing we're hearing and we don't have to talk about.
Honest too. Name it. Yeah.
Let's talk about race at a women's conference, like that sort of thing. Yes. So it was a really special moment for me. Is that my last tea or pass? That was tea or pass.
I loved it. It was so fun.
I'm so glad.
I thought I was going to get more softballs, but
did I have any softball? I think I asked if you like sushi, but I took it off the list because I was really enjoying the church combo.
No, I love sushi. Big sushi fan. Okay, I got a softball. I feel better now.
Wait, hold on. If it were, just because
if I was eating sushi alone, I would still love it.
Would you eat it with your hands? So, question though, because we're talking about sushi and like I love sushi. Bento boxes. I feel like there's a specific way people make up their bento box. Like what kind of stuff you like in it?
I don't think I've ever had a bento box. I am so sorry. I'm like an all-you-can-eat sushi kind of gal. Is that like not authentic? I'm like a fake sushi lover, but like I've just only ever had like a bunch of sushi.
Okay, wait, but when you do all-you-can-eat, you still order other things though.
No.
What? Rebekah.
I like the sashimi. I like the like spicy tuna rolls. Like.
But what about like I don't know. Shrimp tempura.
Oh yeah, I'm lying. Of course. Of course
sweet.
I get that.
Sweet.
I definitely get that.
My bento box is literally 2 different kinds of sushi. Yeah. Maybe a hand roll if I'm feeling a bit extra that day. And then some edamame. Edamame beans. And then any kind of tempura. Something crunchy.
Love that.
And then teriyaki chicken.
Yeah, I've never had that either.
Oh, girl.
I know.
It's basically like barbecue. I feel like that's blasphemous. I
know.
Say that,
people are going to like comment and be like, no, it is not.
If you disagree, come tell me. You know how to find me on Instagram. Yeah, that's my bento box. And then I get like a bubble tea, which me and my team are always talking about like which is our favorite bubble tea. And I'd say overall, the understanding is like taro is probably one of the best.
Oh, see, I don't love that one. Wow. I just like the basic like brown sugar milk tea.
But that's good too. I can't do dairy like that.
Me neither. It makes me sick every time. But I do it. I just love it. It's so good.
So we do not, you know what? If we went to all you can eat, we'd be fine.
We'd be fine. Yeah.
So maybe that's better than ordering in $20 worth of bento boxes. I've learned something today. All right. Couple questions about specifically in regards to singleness. And for me, I think you've said a lot that's really encouraged me about like my lifestyle in general. We talked about purpose. We've talked about women's conferences and sushi and all sort of thing. But I would love to know specifically, where is your mind and heart at right now in regards to singleness? Because I do have a lot of friends who surround me who are like, I'm in a hopelessness space. I couldn't do it. Meisha couldn't do this podcast right now if I was living in the place I was 2 years ago. Because 2 years ago, I believed that was a wrap for me. Like as soon as I hit 30 and I wasn't married and there was no prospects, I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
But today I feel so hopeful. And I do think it's because I changed my life around and invited people into my life who are like more hopeful for my marriage than I ever could imagine.
Wow.
And so I'm surrounded by hope.
That's so good.
But yeah, for you, where are you at right now?
Yeah. Last week leading up to this, I was like, I have to cancel. I feel sad about singleness. I am not the right person to have on the podcast. So like the truth is like, yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like I would say I feel, okay, this is what I feel. So I was feeling, this is the one part I practiced. Okay. So I had kind of come to the conclusion that marriage was an idol. And the Lord was saying to me, or not even the Lord was saying, I was saying to me, you need to surrender this because if like you need to be willing to be happy and content if you never get married. You need to be ready to accept that. That just might be God's plan for you and you got to be ready for that. And I was feeling very sad and like essentially had given up hope. And my mom / my counselor was like, that's like not a great approach to that. Like, that sounds terrible. And they were like, I fully, both of them in their own, different capacities are like, no, I very much believe you will marry and you're made for loving. And, God says it says, if any of you can receive this gift of singleness. No, I don't think
right.
It's not for me. So I do believe I have crossed a bit of like over the weekend leading up to this. And I think that's God more than anything. I do feel very hopeful that I will meet the right person at the right time, hopefully not far from now. And I also do believe, and I believe this wholeheartedly, that if I don't marry, that God will give me these spaces and places and people of joy that will be enough. And I don't feel that way right now. Like, I don't feel like God's like, yep, that's the plan. I'm just going to give you joy in other ways. No, at this point in time, I feel a strong sense that like I will marry and I will partner with somebody for furthering the gospel. But if I don't, I also believe that God will provide like abundant life, abundant joy. It says in 1 Corinthians, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no heart could possibly know how great the gifts that God has for those who love him. And that's the promise I'm living in. That's where I am.
Oh, I'm like, am I about to cry? Whoa, that's good. Just the ending part where you said, if I don't, I hear like, if I perish, I perish, right? It's like, there's a risk in saying that. There's like even if my voice trembles and I say the truth, that if I don't marry, even though this is something that's so important to me, and I thought the idol thing literally this morning, I was like, if I made marriage an idol, reveal it to me if I have, you know, because I've wanted it my whole life. So it's very possible that I've put it ahead of God. If I don't get it, what would that mean for my relationship with God? But I think you're right in that God has never made me feel like he wasn't, like, even when I didn't know God was doing a thing, in hindsight, I'm like, he was there. And this is what he taught me in that time. And I think, I don't think he teaches you in a way that you will learn every single lesson consecutively. I think that like, I'm like, oh, that's why that was happening in my 20s. I'm seeing that in my 30s. I don't think it always happens like that. I don't believe it's always super linear.
No.
But, and that's on purpose. We need him to get through our day.
Yeah.
But I do think there's that like, if this isn't how it's going to be, that God is going to fulfill your life. Yeah. That's his promise to us.
And I want to say, I know we don't have much time, but I want to say, like, to any woman or man, if any men are listening, they should too. I want to say, like, your pain is so valid. Like, Brene Brown quotes the neuroscience research that says that the part of our brain that lights up when we like get hot coffee spilled on us, so physical pain, is the same part of our brain that lights up when we feel shame and exclusion and emotional pain. So that emotional injury that you're feeling is like you broke your arm. Like, it's very real. It is not in your head. It is not like Just think positive. It's fine. I do believe those things can help. But let me just, if nobody else has said this to you today, your pain at not having the thing that everybody everywhere all the time is telling you you should have, your pain is so valid. It is okay. It is not embarrassing. It is not undignified.
Ooh.
It is so valid. And like scientifically as well. Yeah.
Come on. I can't think of a better place to end this today. Thank you so much, Rebekah, for stopping by the actual My Single Story studio. This has been such a blessing to me. I can't wait to listen to it myself and relearn the things you've shared with me. Where can we find out more about what you're up to? Where do you want to send us?
I'm not going to send you to my personal Instagram because I have like 3 posts on there and it's very embarrassing. I just updated my bio now. It says I live in Toronto.
Hey.
You can find me at Salvationist Women. I post everything that's on there and we'll share some of the stuff on there as well. And we have podcast stuff and it's for women, but men follow it too. So that's
love
where you
it.
can
Love
find
it.
me.
And find my episode on Salvationist Women at Salvationist Women.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for hanging out.